The Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend has only barely begun, but the first controversies have already emerged. From missing parts to new technical directives, the Las Vegas GP is set to become an absolute all-timer. First off, out of nowhere, Lewis Hamilton swept Formula One practice sessions at the Las Vegas Grand Prix on Thursday, beating Lando Norris by 0.011 seconds in FP2. The Mercedes driver posted a time of 1 minute 33.825 seconds on soft tyres, showing everyone just how quick the Mercedes is in cold conditions. Mercedes absolutely dominated the first practice session before being split by Norris in his McLaren in the second session. Ferrari slotted in fourth and fifth during the second session. As for Red Bull, they were only able to come in 17th and 19th. Yes, that low. And the first big controversy start here, as they have somehow managed to take the wrong parts to the States, and they now have to send new parts from the UK as soon as possible to make sure the car is in the right spec during qualifying. So, Red Bull claims it is trapped with a too draggy rear wing, which has put it on the back foot against its Formula One opponents at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. World Championship leader Max Verstappen was 17th quickest in the second free practice on Thursday night, with teammate Sergio Perez 2 places behind, as the Milton Keynes-based side lacked pace. While some of the performance shortfall may be attributed to engine settings and a different tyre plan, Red Bull is aware that GPS data reveals it is up to 7 km/h slower on the straights than the pace-setting Mercedes and McLaren cars. This is due to the fact that it did not introduce the same low-drag rear-wing design to the high-speed Las Vegas circuit as its competitors. And, while it did all it could to improve things, including removing a gurney flap, Red Bull claims it will have to make do with what it has since it has no other alternatives. Or it has to send parts over as soon as possible. Red Bull Motorsport advisor Helmut Marko said, "We don't have another rear wing, a smaller rear wing, as we see it on our competitors. It would be more helpful, for sure." When asked if the crew could fly a less trimmed one out overnight from its Milton Keynes plant, Marko said, "No." However, it's not something that should be completely ruled out. Beyond the wing, Marko believed that Red Bull's potential was higher than it displayed in practice, but recognized that things were not going well. "On the short run, we didn't go out with a soft tyre, and the long run was only partly good," he said. "Some laps were competitive, but then the rear tyres were disappearing. There were flashes of speed. We just have to get consistency into it." However, while Marko believes there is more lap time to come in terms of single lap performance, the degradation on the long run may make things more difficult in the race. "We need more balance," he explained. "On the single lap we can improve, but on the long run, the tyre wear is a problem at the moment." But he refused to accept the weekend was a wash, despite the fact that much of the build-up has centered on Verstappen's ability to win his 4th championship here. "Tomorrow is a different day," he continued. "You maybe saw it a lot of times. People will be fastest on Friday or Thursday, but it doesn't mean that they are fast in the race. We will, for sure, make a reasonable step." Reasonable step or not, Red Bull is on the back foot. But they still want to fight for the Constructors' Championship. However, P17 and P19 is not enough to challenge the gap. So, what did they do? Well, here's where the next controversy comes in. At Interlagos, Verstappen finally won another race after being dry for 10 races in a row. He still does not consider Red Bull as a favourite among the field. However, he and his staff believe the playing field is more even than in prior months. Hopefully some things have changed, not necessarily on our part, and hopefully now then we can see the true race performance of each car. Verstappen's statement was slightly ambiguous and carefully worded, and many will take note of it. But he means something by it. Within Red Bull, there is still speculation that a number of teams, particularly big competitor McLaren, were utilising a tyre gimmick. Adding a modest bit of water or another liquid would allow those race teams to better cool the rubber during races. McLaren rejects this as a tabloid tale. The FIA previously investigated the team's numerous rear wings, which have subsequently been changed. In retrospect, this is also what Verstappen intended on the Thursday before the race in Brazil. He termed it very distinct and tough to fathom, that certain teams had made so significant progress in terms of racing speed and tyre management. When contacted, an FIA representative stated that the water fiasco in Brazil had been reviewed and that no evidence supporting such consequences had been discovered. However, now in Las Vegas, a new gimmick has turned up, this time revolving around the floors. And this has caused the FIA to step in and create a new technical directive. This technical requirement is extremely remarkable. The FIA immediately prohibited special protection plates that 50% of the teams had put over the skid blocks. Red Bull pointed out to the association that this practice is illegal. It's a major issue with ground effect cars. How low can I drive without the underbody's skid blocks wearing down due to touch with the road surface? The essential value for the screws that hold the floor panel to the automobile is 1 mm. Anyone who surpasses this limit will be banned, including Mercedes and Ferrari at the 2023 US Grand Prix. Because the car's downforce is significantly dependent on their height, the teams have devised every feasible method over the previous 3 years to safeguard the attaching screws as much as possible. They experimented with insulating material between the base plate and the monocoque, as well as bolts with some flex to absorb track impacts. The most recent gimmick was to provide special protection to the skid blocks, which are used for measurement by FIA inspectors. This is especially true for the fastening screw located at the back of the base plate. This is where everyone wants to drive as low as possible in order to generate downforce. Approximately 50% of the field claimed they had discovered a loophole in the restrictions. Red Bull was the first to notice the so-called protective skids among the competitors. These are claimed to include Ferrari, Mercedes, and Haas. McLaren, like Red Bull, did not engage in this strategy throughout their World Championship campaign. Red Bull informed the FIA that the tactic is prohibited if the regulations are strictly followed, and that a protest is likely if this problem is not clarified. And it came quickly. A week before the Las Vegas Grand Prix, each team got a letter. The FIA issued a technical regulation stating that the protective skids in question were not permissible. This assessment has immediate impact. Ferrari wanted to change the date to the Qatar Grand Prix, but they were unable to do so. The afflicted teams now have a difficulty, which is exacerbated if the aerodynamics are especially engineered for exceptionally low ground clearance. Because no one wants to risk the skid blocks rubbing off too much, the relevant teams must lift their cars to a safe height. That might cost one or the other a lap time. It will be interesting to see during qualifying and the race if this will bring any real problems to the teams. At this point, Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari look very quick. As for Red Bull, they remain at the end of the pack. Will they be able to turn things around? Could they find a way to optimize the current rear wing? If not, does that mean that Verstappen's championship party has to wait another week? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.